time is 1:02, April 18, 2024. Here at the Laredo City Hall, first floor conference room. I'm calling to order the City of Laredo Economic Development Committee meeting. Roll call. René González.
Present.
Ian, no, ya no está. ¿Sí?
Ilan is on our group, but I don't see him.
Is he still part of the
Sí.
absent? Okay. Cesar Garay. Absent. Duda Dominguez, present. Carl Alexander.
Here.
Fernando Baldasso.
Present.
Julian Rafnowski.
Present.
Mayra Hernandez.
Present.
Y Omar
Minas.
Minas. Not here, right? Absent. Listos. Citizens' comments? Any citizens' comments?
We don't have
Mr.
anyone,
Lozano?
Mr. Chairman, for citizen comments here. I did notice on the agenda, we used to have the online link for the Google Forms. It's not on here, but that way we can give them an opportunity to submit written comments online. We'll start having that on the future agendas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving forward, approval of the minutes.
There will be the pages immediately following the agenda.
Motion
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by
Julian?
Julian, second by Myra. All those any comments?
No comments.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
Action items. Discussion with possible action on a 380 agreement for different industries and any other matters, incidents thereto. I put this in the agenda. I feel that the only 380 that we have is not for everybody. I think it's more geared towards manufacturing and that type of, I think each industry should have its own. I don't know what you all think, but do I have a motion for discussion?
Yes.
Motion by Pedro, Mr. Gonzalez.
Are we open for discussion on this?
After this, if I have a second,
Oh,
yes.
second. Yeah.
Second by Carl. Now we can discuss, debate, whatever you all want to do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and that's an item that we have been evaluating as Laredo continues to grow, and as you all know, there's interest in revitalizing and really focusing on all the different areas and industries that have potential on bringing economic development. At the department level, we've been evaluating the different incentive, amendments that we can present to you as far as the guidelines that the city currently adopted. And it is the intention to have, evaluate the tiers, the incentives that are currently being provided that are, yes, maybe extremely focused on the industrial realm as far as job creation and whatnot. So our intention is to come back to the committee, present maybe a proposed guidelines that can cover the different industries, the requirements, and also see how we can benchmark, the incentives that we have compared to, other cities and the different aspects that they take into account when considering an incentive in the form of a tax rebate or abatement. We did that as, and this is not a program that it's particularly under our department, but the Chapter 312 per se. Those guidelines were readopted a few months ago. We did have some input on those guidelines, so where there were slight modifications, and we intend to do the same with our 380, which are more conducive to bigger investment and incorporate, the needs that we're seeing as Laredo continues to grow.
When you're talking about benchmark, for example, let's talk about a service provider. A benchmark would be asking the industry, do you all provide this? Do you all provide that? 'Cause, I mean, if nobody provides it, but you want for them to do it, but I mean, why if nobody does it? You know what I mean? If If it's dental insurance, just an example, if it's dental insurance and the industry doesn't even have it, why should we tell them you have to have dental insurance? That's just my point of view. I don't know, I mean, anybody can, and that's really my comment. It just depends on the industry, what the industry has, and that should be the benchmark. This is my personal view.
But, so, and following that, I thought that the purpose of the 380 is to make sure that we have a better quality of life, and so hence where we have, even though it may not be a practice elsewhere, is standardizing the practice in our city to make sure that our citizens have that extra benefit if you want to come and get some of these benefits or some of these incentives, which is really coming back. It's like a reciprocating cause.
And I
may be wrong, but that's
No,
what
and
we call it.
I think both points are well taken. I think a lot of it has to do with the type of investment. You know, when you're talking about an investment or a project that is that it's millions of dollars and it's gonna generate hundreds of jobs, and obviously the incentive is gonna be at a higher level as far as tax property, you know, rebates or abatements. I think that's where, you know, we do, to your point, it is our interest that the new jobs that are gonna be created, that those are high-paying jobs and that they have the benefits that they need. But to your point, you know, there may be some other investments that doesn't necessarily, you know, will generate the hundreds of jobs or maybe benefit, but we are still interested in growing and incentivizing that area, that industry, you know, that market. Then, you know, that's when we need to become a little bit more creative. Another area is, you know, green energy. You know, is that something that we want to consider? You know, incentivizing companies and new construction projects that are going to implement, you know, practices that are going to help the environment. You know, are we willing to take that into account? And those are just, you know, examples of the different, I guess, items and areas that we need to take into account when considering an incentive.
Mr. Chairman.
Come here.
I think
Rene,
Oh,
you'll be
go
after.
ahead, go ahead. I guess one of the biggest challenges would be what's the expense to the industry? And not the industry, but the company, let's say for instance myself, you ask me to do certain things, but the cost is greater than the abatement at the end of the day. So why would I want to change my world for a fee that's not gonna get me anything? So I think that's one of the things that we could look at is also what the cost to the market becomes, and is it viable when it comes compared to the abatement? Because that's one of the biggest challenges. You will have a lot of them may not be taking advantage of the abatement because of that, because they say, well, this one is going to cost me X amount, and I'm going to get back on my value X amount.
Cost benefit.
The cost benefit may not be there. And I think when we're looking at these things, we have to look at the cost benefit analysis for each company, not only the industry, but each company, and see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think it will require a lot of, you know, diving into really the benchmarking, the formulas that are being used and what's working out there for the different industries.
And one of the biggest, and I guess the word would be not villain, but one of the biggest challenges for some of the downtown buildings, and Julie may attest this, is some of these historical buildings, at least I knew when I was looking at the cathedral, the cost of the windows are more expensive than to replace them and to get new ones. So, you know, the historical value may be, the committee may be saying, I need this, but the value to me is not going to change the value of the building when I try to set it or when I try to do something with it. So that's one of the things when I say cost benefit analysis, that sometimes our ordinances don't put into account what the value is and what effect it has on that value.
So, but do you all have the discretion, or sorry, Mr. Chairman, you all do have the discretion to make those accommodations as need when there's, or no, you don't have like and again, I go based on your benchmarks and I'm gonna call it rubrics, where they may not be paying, let's say, some benefits, but the salary is comparable to if they would be.
And again, it all comes down to the guidelines. You know, it's not that we as a department have the discretion to say yes to this one and no to this one. We always have to obey by the guidelines, and and it all relies on how creative we are with the guidelines as well. You know, on the different, I guess, aspects of that particular item. You know, benefits. How are we going to handle benefits based on, you know, the type of investment, you know, the number of jobs created. Because at the end of the day, an incentive, it's a performance agreement. You know, we'll consider an incentive and the company will, you know, commit to perform at a certain level. So, going back to your question, it all goes back to the guidelines that we adopt under the Chapter 380 as a municipality.
Julian?
I appreciate it. So, I guess, I think a good change of perspective when it comes to the type of businesses we're trying to incentivize and the possible issues that come up, which is, you know, can those businesses afford those standards like healthcare and a livable wage and all those things. I think as a community, as a city, what we should really be asking ourselves isn't if those specific businesses could afford those things, but maybe the change of perspective should be which businesses can. How can we diversify the city of Laredo in such a way where the businesses that we're attracting naturally do pay a livable wage, health insurance. I don't know if dental was one of those, but I just heard it, so I'll just throw that in there, dental. Sorry?
It was just an example, Julian.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. So I just wanted to toss that into the discussion, which is, I think in this new development of these multi-tiered Chapter 380s, we should very much consider the types of jobs we're going to be going after when we start developing those different tiers of Chapter 380s that exist. Because at least from my point of view, one of the things that we suffer for the most in the city of Laredo is a lack of diversified jobs, which is what leads to a lot of brain drain in our city, where I don't have kids, but I'm hitting that age. And I know that's the complaint that I constantly hear from old friends of mine, older friends of mine, family friends of mine that have kids, is that they don't have the job, their kids don't have the jobs that they want here. And that should be a metric that we consider when figuring out what we're really truly trying to incentivize and what we want to bring to Laredo, because that's the point of the Chapter 380. Is to bring what we desire as a city when it comes to business and jobs. So that's my 2 cents.
And going back to Mayra's comment on better quality of life, but for example, if you have 60 employees and you would average the pay and it's like $25 per employee and the minimum is $15, I think they should be able to afford getting whatever insurance they want. If they don't want it, pues that's their own. They sign, I don't want it, pues I don't want it. I mean, be a little bit more flexible. I think, I don't want to say names, but Texlo was very strict on the agreement, and you had to perform exactly what they wanted, and I think there was no flexibility there.
We didn't have like extenuating circumstances language, because I know that we would go back and forth the language. We're like, well, it's not limited to just these industries. It says these industries are going to be part of our, what was it, our strategic plan? But no, it was some of the,
Consultant or?
no, the target, Julia may be able to help me, but, oh God, I forgot the word. But anyways, so these were the industries that we were interested as a city, but
Yeah.
we put verbiage in there to say, this is not the only list that we're looking at, or the only industries, but definitely the ones we're gonna focus on.
Preferred industry and interest.
And I'm actually in our Chapter 360 website, and so I was reading the language, and the language is pretty flexible. I would interpret, I'm not an attorney, but I would interpret that that's, or at least I recall as a committee member, that one of the reasons why we put that language there is to not landlock us to not be able to move forward with changes. And I think actually Dominguez, I think you were the one that brought it up. We said, well, look at what happened with COVID, like that transition, and we had to reconsider on that. And so let's put some verbiage in there that we don't know what's gonna happen in 5 years. And so we wanted to put verbiage in there that we could make sure that whoever was gonna manage the program had the flexibility to make those discretionary, or through management, make those discretionary calls when needed and required.
And I think it's just a matter of really identifying or re-identifying what are gonna be our target industries, you know, and what's the flexibility that each of those target industries, you know, we could consider. On Teclo's defense, on that end, no, I know it sounds very, but no, you know, keep in mind that as well, you know, the objective of a Chapter 380 and a tax abatement or rebate, it's to increase the quality of life and the quality of jobs that are being created as well. I'm all for, you know, considering the flexibility in some instances, but it is, you know, it has been one of the priorities, you know, by city council, by city manager's office to make sure that, you know, the jobs that are being created and the projects that are being incentivized, that we, you know, do take that into account. Things have changed, the industry has changed, the way works have changed. You know, there's a lot of work from home now, you know, there's not a lot of brick and mortar, you know, companies now. Is that an opportunity? Is that a target industry? You know, remote workers. Is there a way we can incentivize companies, you know, that will hire remote workers in Laredo? You know, there's many other, you know, different areas that we can look into.
And that's a true statement, because we just got some data for the university that states that by the next 5 years, and we're projecting less, 37% of the students will be virtual. So you're close to 50% of our students who are now face-to-face will not be face-to-face in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so we need to start adjusting as an industry. Now, I'm looking at the university as an employer. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Right now, we're looking at having to look for, some of us do remote work because we don't need a lot of people in the office. Plus, government is saying, well, I don't need to give you more money for buildings because based on statistics, you are not going to need buildings. What you need to do is have high caliber internet, routers, etc. Your technology, your cities, you need to work with your cities to have high speed internet because that's what you're going to need.
Right.
Are we looking at that already?
Right, and that's what I'm saying, you know, I think this comes in at the perfect time in the sense that we need to start adapting to the way of conducting business and generating economic growth for the city because, you know, the processes have changed.
In the quality of life, that's, the study that they did in Harvard was something like that they wanted to spend more time at home. It's a hybrid, and it depends on the profile of the person.
Correct.
Can they stay home or not? And then do they have the technology to be connecting and having meetings virtual? I mean, providing all that technology, so, I mean, and then how to evaluate the person. So it's a whole new thing.
And I want to bring, if I may, Chair, into this, it's also childcare. I think our childcare facilities I've been researching because that's one of the projects that I'm responsible right now. That's another industry that we're poor in our community. Oh. It just is, I don't think we've made even a tap into that industry of how poorly we have in the workforce in that industry in childcare. And it was very evident, at least I saw it at my workplace and with now students working with parents and the laws from federal down to state changing on childcare support. A lot of our people that left the university were women, and because they became the caregivers of those children because there was no child care facilities that would adjust to new norms. And then a lot of them also, it was an opportunity for us to start reevaluating what the new workforce, because statistically you had more women working right now than men. And there were caregivers also. So the workforce is going to be readjusted, and it was all COVID. And now we're seeing the side effects of it. So going back to the Chapter 380, I think, was it just a discussion, or was it something that we needed to do?
It's a motion to look at other industries and put guidelines for other industries. That's.
I may add, the other thing that needs to be done is give value to one item. For instance, if the criteria asks for $20 wages, and the company's giving 25, 26, they're basically telling you what you pay for your insurance. So I mean, they're paying them higher, so there has to be a way to credit to. There may be less points on the insurance part, but there'd be higher points on the wage part. And I know I've heard the present city manager mention that he's very well involved with economic development, and his I guess his skill is economic development.
Yes.
So that may be something to ask him to see how they've done it in other states that he's worked in, and to see if that can be
Balance it.
balanced. Yeah, they can find a balance because
Yes.
it serves, it's easier to say no to, because of one item, but then if they're doing well in another item, then we should give more value to that.
My recommendation and slash request for the committee will be, and maybe you wanna make it in the form of a motion, is if you allow, for the department, at least, 60 days to start, and then come back to present you with the draft of guidelines, so that we can do some benchmarking, run that by our, upper management before we present it to you all, and then start, evaluating,
I'll make that motion.
do you wanna make it in the
Number
the form
Make
of
a
a motion?
motion to review the guidelines of
Chapter 380.
the three, I'm not wearing my glasses.
There.
Um,
And they're all clear, so.
You look good.
agreements so that we can see if we can adapt them to a newer world that we live in today. And look at not only all industries, but look at the factors that make up these agreements.
Is
I
it clear?
second the motion. No,
Second.
not,
Is it
well,
clear?
unless there's discussion, but no, I second the motion.
Second? Comments?
Can I make a request that we amend the motion to include merging? I'm not sure if you guys remember, we had an entire agenda item that referred to the scorecard and getting an update on that, because I think that will very much give us some really good perspective on how we're moving towards our comprehensive plan on the economic development strategy and what we should truly move forward on targeting.
Can you,
That be completed at the same time.
can you refresh my memory on
Mine
that?
too, please.
On that card,
So,
and then there was people that, there's members now that
The form.
don't even know about that.
yes,
Thank you.
sorry, so the comprehensive plan for the city of Laredo includes an economic development section, and in that economic development section, there was an analysis done, I don't remember at this point, it must have been 2016, 2017. And every year, you're supposed to update, especially on the economic development side, that scorecard, it says what we're still lacking in, what we need more of, what we have succeeded on when it came to our economic development strategy. That has never been updated, and that's supposed to be updated every year. That is very much a good finger on the pulse of if we should change our strategy, if we should focus more on incentivizing certain types of businesses. I think it's something that essentially tells us exactly what to do when it comes to developing the Chapter 380 and what we should be targeting. That's
Does it-
And we did present it at one of the
See,
meetings
but
to you all.
But who's supposed to be updating it, Julian?
The city of Laredo.
The personnel here?
So if I remember correctly, and I'm sorry for the interruption, back then the decision was made that we couldn't follow up with the scorecard because the situations had changed and the basis done back in 2017 were not the same circumstances the city was facing right now. So we couldn't scorecard based on 2017 findings, that there was supposed to be a new analysis. If I remember correctly, I'm not sure.
So I'd amend the motion to include the scorecard and review the scorecard, the criteria in the scorecard to see how it affects the agreement itself.
Any
Thank
other
you.
accepted the motion to also, besides the review, to the scorecard?
I'll second.
Second by Myra. Comments,
I
discussion?
just want to add that the committee members' binders, that you should have it under tab number 4, the Chapter 380 guidelines that the city currently has adopted.
And the economic development, Viva Laredo plan.
Yes.
And just to add to what,
Sorry, Myra.
Ms. Saldaña was saying, yes, at the last time that we presented you, not necessarily with a scorecard, but an update on the economic development recommendations by the Viva Laredo plan. One of the comments by this committee was, maybe we should consider entering into a new economic development study that's gonna really let us know, because obviously that was done more than 5 years ago. But we can definitely bring back that report card to you all to see where we stand on economic development and all the recommendations that were made back then.
Thank you. Ms. Castillo, I'm new here. Thank you for having me. But I am interested in, before recommending or considering another economic development study for the city of Laredo, I'd like to see, and maybe it's available, and I know Julian mentioned the scorecard, but and I know on the website that you can see the opportunities right now for incentives to bring business. But are there 5 of them, 8 of them, 10, 12,
Like industries or,
like incentive programs?
oh, no.
I would say that if you include, NEC, Chapter 380, Chapter 312, those are the 3 top incentive programs for economic development. There are at least a couple that had been discussed at one point, several years ago, like the Inner City Incentive Program that is not active, the Eat Street program as well that is not active either. But to answer your question, facade improvement, if you consider some of the programs, and I know we have guests here as well that are gonna give us some feedback, and I do wanna be mindful of everyone's time. If you consider those as well, that puts us up to 5. Are those enough? No, maybe not. Yes, maybe they are. This is where the benchmarking, comes into place and see what other cities are doing. Funding, as you all know, some of these programs are being made possible because of federal funding that we will not have come
Near
next
future.
year.
Yeah.
So that's where, we need to really evaluate, and that's what I guess.
So I'm wondering if, since 2017, right?
2017.
If we could see a grid of the program and just a simple number of how many businesses or people have taken advantage
Yes.
of the, is that available?
It is available, and I think when we come back with a report card on the Viva Laredo Economic Development section, they touch base on NEC, they touch base on 380s. We can definitely give numbers on how many people or businesses have taken advantage of those programs since the inception of the program, or at least throughout the last 2 years.
And some people have tried to qualify for some of the programs and then they've been denied for whatever reason. I'd like to see that number
So it's
too.
like
I wouldn't be
applicants,
able to-
approval,
Applicants
denials?
approve and approve, right?
Or not eligible,
Right.
because some of them may have applied, but they missed something
Exactly,
and they were
approve
not
and
eligible,
approve.
not that they were,
Right, for whatever reason, they don't
if that was the
finalize
purpose.
them.
And his comment back then, that I recall, was if I do some flexibility, because I'm gonna get the other people that comply upset. And when they do the renewal, they want to say, well, I want that same flexibility. That was his answer back then.
Who's he?
Well, maybe everyone
Oh.
should.
Oh,
The same
okay, okay,
flexibility.
sorry.
Yeah, he couldn't be flexible because of that, because
Well,
he had
then
already done a
why
great
this one
job.
yes and not?
Well,
this
keep
one?
in mind as well that at least for the Chapter 380 and big investments, and this is not only us saying this, every other city will say it, and attorneys in other cities as well. Millions of dollars of investments that's gonna translate into heavy, tax revenue that's gonna be committed to an incentive. The VAT4 rule needs to be applied in a lot of instances. Is there maybe room for flexibility on lower investment? Maybe, but that's the task that you're, pretty much recommending.
And what I saw back then was the people that were doing the big investments would sell something. And the person that wanted to build something was a service provider. So they don't make the same amount of money. And so he had a hard time complying with 380, so he was rejected.
The builder, someone
To
building something.
build something
Or to
very
create
big.
something.
He was gonna
Build
do
to
basically
give
an
a
industrial
service
park on his
versus-
own.
It's the builders wanting the fee, but it actually is supposed to go to the person that brings in the jobs, not the builders. He was trying to
Oh,
get.
so I understand.
And so, but he was a service provider. I mean, to make money just for the service is a little bit harder than when you sell avocado and when you sell things like that. It was just my point of view
Not
back
to be
then.
specific.
Not to be specific, but it was just that. So any other comment before we take a vote? No? I'll ask for the question. All those in favor?
Right.
Two.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on. Next item. Discussion on warehousing building permits, trade and industrial growth in the last 3 years. Is it the same or no? Is it another item?
It's just that one item
Okay.
by one of the committee members, and then B is at a different item.
Okay. Discussion on warehousing?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, is there any way we can move an item up? I think it's our presenter, so that's okay with you.
Motion to move.
Oh,
Motion to
motion to-
move,
I just need to see which
the
one it is.
presentation item,
Item 6B.
6B.
6B?
Second.
All those in- Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let's bring the presenters.
Yes, thank you, Live Fund. We have Ms. Sara Saldaña and Ms. Gina Palma. As per the request of the committee, they're gonna give us a very brief update on the 0% loan and the grant, the small business grant program. The 0% loan, as you all know, it's still ongoing, so some of the numbers are gonna be very preliminary. And the grants program, even though the deadline has already, it's gonna be tomorrow, 19th. On the 19th, they're gonna give us some very preliminary numbers as well as per your request. Welcome.
Hello everyone. So I'm Gina. I'm the Senior Business Development Officer here in Midland. And so this is the information we have so far. The grant applications, we close the applications tomorrow at 5 p.m. So we still have a little bit of time for them to continue applying. Just when we were coming from the office, there was a lady applying for it right there. So they're still going into the office and they're still applying right now. But before that, we've already received 133 complete applications. So next week what's gonna happen, it's gonna be the review phase. We're gonna be reviewing all the applications, reviewing the tax returns that have been presented, and from there, we're gonna go ahead and make the approvals, you know, who has been approved, and if they have not been approved, we do send out a denial email to them, explaining to them why they're not approved, based on the data that they provided us. And then the funding starts the last week of April, which is April 29th. That's when we start funding it, and everything's gonna be through DocuSign. So they're gonna be receiving a DocuSign file through their email. It's very simple, it's very easy. The guidelines are right there. I mean, you can just pretty much follow it. It's user-friendly. They close, and then they should be receiving their funding within probably 24 to 48 hours.
So it's a direct deposit?
It's a direct deposit, yes. Because on the DocuSign, they usually put in there their ACH information. Okay? That's provided to them. Once we finish that, then we'll go ahead and give you all a formal report and a breakdown of what has been closed and the industries and so on of who have been given the grant awards. Okay? That is for the grant. Now, for the buy down, the zero buy down, which has been also an excellent program, we want to thank the city. You know that they were gracious enough to give us the funding so that we can provide to our much needed small businesses here, because honestly they are in need, they're struggling. Right now we have already allocated $227,963.70 of the funding that you all provided us, and we received $500,000. So we're already halfway to our goal of the $500,000. And right now in total loans, it has been $672,510. So a lot of it has been staying here in our city, which honestly, that's just amazing. The industries that we've been working on, it's been 50% in the transportation warehouse industry, 13% is the service industry. Now, when we say service, it's a lot of daycares, restaurants, a lot of small shop cafes have been helped in there. So it's been awesome. It's been 82% Hispanic, 14% white, and 4% of other, and one veteran-owned business that have been received the funds so far. Now we can't give you the total because right now we're still working on closing other loans that we're working on, but I can tell you that we do have a healthy pipeline, and clients are getting to our office. The open house that we had just last week for the grant was a great success, and we're still receiving people from it, and hopefully we're thinking of doing an open house for the buy down as well.
What could we do as a committee to support you for the next budgetary year?
Well, funding would be awesome.
It's funding, because the program is based on COVID.
The program that now that we're working on is a program through the ARPA fund. So these are businesses that were affected by the pandemic. but it's also businesses that are starting up that unfortunately were not able to start because of the pandemic as well. So we're helping both businesses right now. And that's also what we're hoping for the grant. It's just businesses that were affected within the 2019, 2020, and 2020 year. Yes, that's the grant that is, but for the bite-out zero interest, startups are also welcomed.
The ARPA funds, as to what I heard, was it last night or this week? My understanding is a contract or the agreement needs to happen by December, but the purchases or the funds to be spent have 2 years.
We need to commit the monies by the end of this year, but then once we're committed or the money is contracted, with a service provider, we have 2 years to actually spend the money and award the monies.
Is that something that has been done for this year for next budgetary cycle, or this is?
Well, actually, we had already secured and committed the funding with them of, $500,000 for one program and the other $500,000 for the grant program.
That's right.
So we have already committed $1 million.
Turnover there, money's already given you. Right, because you said you're transferring 24 to 48 hours. The funds to so the
Yes.
money's being spent.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
For
we
the
don't
grant, yes.
foresee any issues with
Oh,
them
no, no.
awarding the money by the
Yes.
end of this year.
Yeah, no, we should be in a very good place. Exactly, yes.
Have you rejected?
Applicants for the grant, we have, because in the application process, we have to see unfortunately had to have rejected just based on that. But the good thing about it is for those applicants that were rejected for it, we offer them the 0% buy down, which is also an excellent program because, for instance, I can tell you last week I closed a loan for $20,000 for a daycare at 0 interest. Her payment is $388 a month. Right now, who's giving you that type of payment? No one. I mean, just look at your.
Did the loan get a car?
Not even, exactly, not even, I mean, honestly, it's a great program and it's really helping our businesses. Like for instance, this daycare, she's looking to open a second location, which right now that you were mentioning, that's what we need. We need good daycares here, and they're opening a second location and I think that's just amazing that they're servicing our community.
Can you tell me, please?
I'll let her know.
Well, the other thing that I found out from childcare facilities is that we don't have anyone in our city or within our certain demographic certified at the national level. And that's the cream of the crop. That's what you want your childcare facility to be. But obviously the return investment, they're probably gonna have to start charging $2,000-3,000 a monthly because of the accreditation.
And right now daycare's already
But
very
there's
expensive.
federal grants that could pay for it. We just haven't applied for it. Just as an FYI.
Thank you.
Any comments? Any
Oh,
comments?
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your time.
And thank you all.
Excuse
Excuse
us.
us.
Thank you.
We still have money available, so if you know of anyone who needs a grant or a loan, send them our way.
And
Honestly,
when is the deadline for the loan?
For the loan until the funding is depleted.
Oh,
And
okay.
right now, we're halfway out, so I believe probably 2 more months and we should already deplete those funds as well.
Could you give us your telephone number?
Sure, it's 956-962-5121, and we're located on Calton at the old Guerra Communications Building, 902 East Calton,
I see.
so.
And do you have an email address maybe you could?
Sure, let me give you my business card.
You can also provide the committee with the flyers that we have
yes.
that'd be
for both programs. There is a call center set up as part of these programs with grant professionals with Lift Fund to answer any technical questions applicants have. It's a dedicated call number for dedicated call center.
Here is, and just my number, it's the one that you
Okay.
okay. But here's my email, and that's my address. Thank you, Jimmy. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.
Next item, discussion on warehousing, building permits, trade, and industrial growth in the last 3 years.
Yes, and this was an item as well that was brought up by one of our committee members, with the intention of, and I think this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about on the chapter 380 guidelines and whatnot. I do have some numbers that I wanna show to you, regarding, growth. As you all know, there's been a lot of industrial growth in the city, and we continue to see more. We are at about approximately 50 million square feet on industrial, and we do expect that that's gonna grow another 10 million in the next 2 or 3 years, if not sooner. I know there were, and I will let some of the committee members make their comments as well, but just to go over some of the numbers that, as it pertains to permitting. If you would go to the total overall.
Yes, I'm just gonna try to share it so Julian can see it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Window, or entire screen, whichever.
Entire screen.
Yeah, that'll do it. Just select the entire screen. There you go. And then when you move to the PowerPoint, it'll show.
Okay.
Just
Julian, can
asking.
you see that, my friend?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. Good.
Okay, so, total overall permits, I mean, you can see them by years. You can see that, last fiscal year, there were a total permit count of 17,640. Year to date, this fiscal year, we're at 5,434. And then there are some numbers there as well that show, some of the revenue that, it's being brought to the city, in terms of the investment for all of these projects. I know that, next one, please. As far as warehouse, you can see the total, the overall permit count, on warehouse, projects. Just year to date, we're already at 41, and if you compare that to last year, we closed fiscal year with 47 projects. So this tells you, how much growth in the industrial industry Laredo is really experiencing. I know we have committee members that are in that industry as well, and I think they can attest to that. I'm not sure if maybe we can also go very briefly over residential just for informational purposes, if we go to the next one. Residential permit house, same scenario. I believe that the building department is seeing, a lot of houses that are being built. We closed the fiscal year with 1,223. Year to date, we're almost half there already at 670. Commercial, if we go to the next one. Last, again, fiscal year, they encountered 299 permit counts for commercial projects. Year to date, now we're at 216, and I believe the last slide.
This is
Yes.
fiscal year, right?
It's fiscal, well, the last bar, it's the fiscal year, so year to date, fiscal year 23-24. We're at 686 in renovation and additions. The bar on the left, that's annual, last fiscal year,
So September, end of September, start of September.
end of September.
It starts October
Wow,
2.
wow.
So it's good. We're halfway. We still have.
If I can just chime in on
So
these
just
charts,
finish this
the
up.
only thing that I feel like, not that it's misleading, but we need to take into account is construction projects, and when you're pulling for permits in the residential and the commercial side, and the only reason I say that is this is kind of under my wheelhouse. The starts are always at the beginning of the year. Most of those permits get pulled at the beginning, so I don't think it's a good idea to assume that since we're not even halfway through that, that's gonna double or triple.
And I
That's
don't think
just the
that's,
nature of the game.
That's optimistic.
no, and I don't think that's really the message that we're trying to portray, but if you look at the numbers as they are right now, it does look like, we're experiencing a lot of activity. And the other thing to point out, if you look at the previous years, how COVID didn't really have that much of an impact, when it came to permitting for projects. So these are just for, I guess, informational purposes. It may or may not surpass, we don't know yet, But the truth of the matter is that, you know, it's been a very steady, I guess, permitting season for the city.
It's a healthy season.
Looks healthy. But I mean, comparing to the economic development, did a presentation and they said that there was permits for the next 2 years for 100 million square feet of warehouse. And you said we're at 51. Is that?
That's the numbers that we have approximately right now at 50-some million, and,
So
you know, with
it's-
another 10 coming up, and, yeah,
Probably gonna hit the 100.
yes, very easy.
That's all healthy. And I hope we take this into account when we start looking to see what we should really be incentivizing these. It seems like, you know, natural market forces are leading the charge when it comes to warehousing. Maybe that's something that we don't have to heavily incentivize. And maybe we need to pivot and look at other opportunities so that we can diversify, you know, what we're trying to incentivize and bring to the city of Laredo.
Julian, what are some of those opportunities that you think we should be concentrating on?
Housing, affordable housing is probably one of the biggest needs, not just, you know, nationally, but in the city of Laredo, there's a major gap for workforce housing. All you really see right now being built in the north is more, I wouldn't call it luxury, but I would call it, you know, like a tier 2 apartments. There really isn't that much being built for workforce housing in the city of Laredo. So that's one major thing, and when it comes to pumping up, you know, economically dollars for your city and affordability, housing is always a good way to do it. It provides a lot of jobs naturally, you know, but at the same time, you know, providing that affordability factor also helps bring down that livable wage number, which is very important when it comes to figuring out that livable wage. One of the biggest components of that is food and housing.
Okay.
So that's a primary one that I would say flashes completely red that we should target.
But you mean affordable houses just for everybody, for the old folks, or for
So
new
market rate
professionals, or?
and workforce housing is that typically is like, if I can give a demographic example, it's, you know, maybe not have a family yet or in the early stages and just looking for, you know, a 2-bedroom, 1,500 square feet. It doesn't have to have the huge, what is it, luxury, gigantic, like pool. We're talking about just, you know, good, well-made, you know.
Tiny home.
Starter home.
No, not tiny. No, it's a mix of starter homes and apartments. There's needs for both in the city. Not tiny homes. Tiny, there's a slightly different category.
Thank you, Julian.
Okay.
Miriam had to be excused. She had another meeting to attend, but she's gonna share the numbers, the presentation.
With everyone. Cool.
Just-
Awesome.
I asked her when she left, so she's gonna get that. Very good. Any other discussion on the warehousing and the industrial growth? Any questions?
Well, I drove to San Antonio yesterday and just see the clearings.
Mines
Huge
Road.
amounts of, well, I was going just up 35.
Oh, you should go to Mines Road. Oh
Yeah,
my
well,
God.
yeah,
Oh,
see it
right
there.
in the
yeah.
back toward Colombia. Oh, it's
You go to there, clean a lot.
before Santa Isabel Creek, so it's
So most
huge.
of the building and warehouses is still that area
No,
where
it's
it's.
empty now, all those branches are now
Yeah.
clear, they're starting to clear up also.
But it looks like it's gonna be like
Like
an
it's gonna be-
industrial.
Industrial.
It looks like.
So that's the district that will
I
probably
think-
serve most for
I
that.
think that to Julian's point, that it's just naturally occurring, right, without
You would hope we were the
incentives,
number
right?
one.
It's just naturally occurring. Of course, maybe we could, you know, it might grow with some valuable incentive package.
So, I mean, I see it like, excuse me, if I were to invest here or some other city that's gonna give me some benefit,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Julian would say, well, they're already here, so why should we give something?
Oh, you think he's saying that?
Well,
Yeah.
that's what he tried to say,
Is that what you're saying, Julian?
or.
Since they're already, I'm sorry, what was the statement made? I mean, like,
The,
it's multiple people talking, it's hard to track.
Yeah, the example that you were or give us an example of what you were saying with the warehouses, not to, because they're naturally being
I
built.
said not, what I was trying to imply is that it shouldn't be our main focus. So I'm not blatantly saying not to, because there may be certain type of warehouses. I don't have a warehouse business. I represent clients that do, and I know there are so many different types of warehouses for so many different types of needs. It really depends on the business that's going in those warehouses. So I don't want to say not to invest in any type of business that creates a warehouse, because we all know there's different warehousing needs. What I'm just trying to highlight is, as we can see in building permits, naturally, that is what's exploding in our city. And maybe shouldn't be our focus when it comes to determining what our Chapter 380 guidelines should target. Doesn't mean that we stop at all, because even our economic development strategy, or from our comprehensive plan, still says to continue. But I don't have it in front of me at the time, but it actually names specific categories within warehousing to target.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, sorry if I implied otherwise, that wasn't my intent.
Any other discussion? Alrighty, Julian, I think this is yours. The presentation items, update on the Downtown Summit, scheduled for April the 22nd through the 24th.
Yes, I'm gonna be emailing all you guys a flyer, but we have a bunch of great speakers. It's free, includes lunch, if you guys want to attend. We just ask you register, and I'll send that email invite to all of you. But we are bringing in the IDA, the International Downtown Association. They're the largest downtown association in the nation. A bunch of amazing individuals that represent cities that have turned their downtowns around, like El Paso, Corpus Christi. I think we have someone maybe blanking from Boston, I think. But it's going to be a lot of good information, especially when it comes to what we should be doing in our downtown. How do we make it ours? And into something that's more prosperous.
And this.
But yes,
on Monday.
that is going to be next week on Wednesday, which is the 10th. Sorry,
Is it
apologies, the 24th.
It's just the 24th, right, Julian?
It's scheduled.
So
Second
experts that are coming in are going to be meeting with a bunch of different individuals from all different industries and organizations on the Monday and Tuesday leading up to the Wednesday event. But the presentation, the public facing, where anyone can attend and hear from them directly on what they've been able to assess thus far is going to be on Wednesday. And then I think it's 2 weeks later, they're going to give us their final assessment of what they were able to collect and what they believe we should all be doing, not just as a city, but a county, private sector, all of it together, and how it all fits together and how we move forward.
And so Julian, as a committee, could we go to all these other sessions, the Monday, Tuesday session? To kind of sit and observe and hear?
The IDA is kind of leading that. From my understanding, those are focus groups, but let me find out the answer to that, and I will reply to the group. But from my understanding, it's focus groups. Yes?
Where's the event at, Julian? Where will it be held at?
It's being held at Laredo College. They have their kind of center there. They're like annex. I'm not sure what exactly it's titled, but it'll be on the flyer that I send you all.
Okay.
Who's the organizer, Julian?
The organizer, it's the City of Laredo, Downtown Business Improvement District,
And the Chamber of Commerce.
Loretta Main Street is
Okay.
the sponsor.
and the Chamber of Commerce, I'm sorry.
Okay. And the host is Elsie. All right.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Julian. Thank you for the update.
Thank you,
Now
guys.
we come to the adjournment.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Baldasso. All those in favor?
Aye.
I didn't think
Aye.
anybody was gonna.
Object.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, everybody.